didn't do that. I turned the knob. I turned around backwards and dragged the suitcase in, coming into Prabhupada's room like this. Suddenly, Prabhupada's servant, Nanda Kumar, who was a friend of mine, he said, "Watch out! You're going to bump into Srila Prabhupada!" And I turned around, and Prabhupada was this far away from me. Like right there. He was smaller, but the thing about Prabhupada, he was small physically, but by stature he was enormous. And he was effulgent. Prabhupada said one time, the eyes are the light of the soul. You can see the soul by the, and when that light goes out of the eyes, it means the person's passed away. But a fully realized soul, everything, that consciousness emanates through every pore of his body. One time Prabhupada was walking across the street near Oxford Street, and one Bobby, you call them Bobbies, you still call them Bobbies? He grabbed Shrama Sundari, he said, "Look, your teacher is glowing like the sun." And when George Harrison wrote that song, "Here comes the sun, da, 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 da. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's all right, da, 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 da. It's been a long, long, lonely winter, da, da, da." That song was about Prabhupada. George Harrison revealed that to Mukunda Goswami, my godmother. Prabhupada was effulgent. I've never seen it in any other person, with all due respect to many saints. Prabhupada was Shaktavish Avatar, a especially empowered resident of Vrindavan, come to execute the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this world. Effulgent. So I turned around and Prabhupada was in his gamsha. It was a pink and white gamsha. Beautiful. And Prabhupada's body was golden. One time Prabhupada was very ill for a long time. Nanda Kumar told me this past time. He was ill for a long time and then he got better. And Nanda Kumar came into Prabhupada's room and I said, "Prabhupada, you look better." He said, "Yes. My color has come back." He said, "This is my color in the spiritual world, reddish gold." I thought, wow. That's Prabhupada's color in the spiritual world, reddish gold? This is a moment of intimacy. Prabhupada revealed something extremely divine, perhaps even confidential. So when I heard that, I ran back to my room and started going through Nectar of Devotion. Because in Nectar of Devotion, the characteristics of different personalities in Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, there's a description there. The type of dress they wear, the type of seva, their consciousness, and many times what their skin color is like. But I stopped because I remember Prabhupada said we should not speculate about the identity of the spiritual master in the spiritual world. Rather, we should serve him as he appears before us, and by serving his mission here, we can serve his seva there. This is spiritual mathematics. By serving the spiritual master here, we qualify ourselves eventually to serve him in our liberated form, Nityasiddha, in the spiritual world. So I close the Nectar of Devotion. So Prabhupada was effulgent, and I was in the presence of my spiritual master. It's always on veneration. Although being a spiritual master now on the instruction of Prabhupada, I see that the spiritual master is the master. He's also a psychiatrist. He's also a doctor. He's also the best friend. He's a shoulder to cry on. He's so many things in helping his disciples advance on the path of Krishna consciousness. But I was always very dutiful. There's a number of photos of me with Prabhupada that I've collected through the years. I'm always like this. So, and Prabhupada, and he was smiling. I thought, oh my gosh, I dropped to the ground. And the bag went boom, that bag. And then there was a moment, and all of a sudden, whack, on my back. Prabhupada slapped me. Here. I thought if I ever get a tattoo, I'm not into tattoos, okay? If I ever got a tattoo, I'd do the outline of Prabhupada's palm there. And sometimes I just go like this to feel it. Everything's okay. And then Prabhupada said something. And then his lotus feet, I could smell the sandalwood on his lotus feet. He was just going to get his massage, actually. So the feet left, and I thought I'd done something wrong. Maybe I came in the wrong way or whatever. It was such a hard, Prabhupada was in the 70s. That was a hard slap. I think it took my breath away. And so I waited, and then I got up. And Prabhupada had already gone into the room for his massage. And Nanda Kumar was sitting there with his mouth open like... I said, what happened? He said, Prabhupada slapped you on the back in firm appreciation. I went, whew. He said, I never saw him do that before. And he said something to you. I said, what? He said, so much endeavor. He said, so much endeavor in this material world, but when I take you back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime. So I remember that. When we pray to the spiritual master when we say the prayers to the spiritual master in the morning at Guru Puja, that the words from this lotus mouth is like our life and soul. So that's my tattoo. That has been etched in stone. Isn't that saying? Etched in stone. So I have a stone-like heart. I'll just be honest with you. I have a stone-like heart. It hasn't yet melted in ecstasy. But etched on that heart are those words. So much endeavor in this material world. But when I take you back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime. So through the process, we have our challenges. Desires come, desires go. In our seva, especially as a preacher, we meet so much opposition, both sometimes from the government, sometimes from the church. In Poland, we've been attacked by skinheads. We've had to fight, literally, fight. Use my right arm. We had to fight in Sarajevo. We were attacked by the Muslims for doing Harinam on the street after the Bosnian War. They were stabbing us with knives. Had to fight. It's not easy to spread a spiritual movement in the material world. It goes against the grain. But it's the Lord's desire, so therefore it will ultimately be successful. So throughout all those trying times, sometimes, I've traveled and bed bugs really like me. I don't know, they must have some kind of message they send through or whatever. And I've very often been in beds where I get bed, they give 2 bites, and they last 10 days. And I've been in huge crowds. I got COVID twice. I got so many things. Hepatitis in India, just being in travel. I've been arrested many times. Spent 7 days in the jail of Franco in the very beginning in Spain. They stripped us down to our underwear, and they fed us only a gruel, like a little soup, which they poured through the thing on the floor. We had to suck it up off the floor. We could only shower every 3 days. It was so difficult. Eventually they let us go because one of the people that got arrested with us father was the chief of justice in the government of Franco, so we got out. But so many trying situations. But whenever that happened, I just thought, Prabhupada's words, so much endeavor in this material world. And I'm not endeavoring for myself, I'm endeavoring for you, Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, it's a type of pleasure, actually. It's like drinking hot sugar juice. It's burning your lips, but it's so sweet you can't stop. That's devotional service, under some circumstances. I'd always remember, so much endeavor in this material world, but when I take you back to the spiritual world, everything will be easy and sublime. It's okay. The goal is there. I just tolerate, share my Guru's mercy. That's my qualification for getting his mercy, and go back to the spiritual world. And Prabhupada told Dhananjaya, you know Dhananjaya, he's yours. He's your Dhananjaya. Elderly now, sick, but that's jarred, but we are all experiencing some level or not. Prabhupada told him, when we get back to the spiritual world, we will recognize each other. Wow. When I heard that, I went, wow! We'll all recognize each other. Isn't that wonderful? He said, you won't see me like this. He said, I'll be like a little boy. A young boy, transcendental. He said we'll have our ISKCON in the spiritual world. If we make our ISKCON our heart and soul here, that will be our Gopi Gan. Gopi Gan means that, like there's different groups of gopis, because those who are part of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, Prabhupada has said that generally the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're aspiring for Manjari Bhav. It's a deep subject matter. We won't go into it here. I'm not that qualified. But Prabhupada said generally the followers of Lord Chaitanya, they're aspiring for Manjari Bhav. It means the young gopis who serve Radha and Krishna. That's our mood. Of course, we know in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, there were devotees who had that mood of Ram Bhakta, like Anupam, one of the brothers, or the brother of Rupan Sanatan. He was a Ram Bhakta. There were several Ram Bhaktas. There was a Varaha Bhakta. That's fine. But in general, the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he introduced Braj Bhakti, of which the topmost understanding is the love of the gopis for Krishna, that's what we're aspiring for. So, I can wait for that. Even if it means Janme Janme Prabhu. If I have to take birth after birth, by the desire of my spiritual master, niet problem, we say in Russian, niet problem, no problem. One time my godbrother Adi Shekhar Prabhu, he was a new bhakta, and Prabhupada had come to Paris. And we were sitting on the lawn, New Mayapur, was sitting on the lawn at New Mayapur, a farm community in France. And Adi Shekhar, he asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, when you die, where are you going? You don't ask, that's not party question of the Sevaya. Inquiring from the spiritual master, getting some instructions and following them. Where are you going to go when you die? So Prabhupada said, I plan to go to the hellish planets to continue preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I thought, I'm going with you. Because for me, that's the spiritual. What do I know of the spiritual master of the world? What do I know of devotional service? What do I know of the six Goswamis? What do I know about Rasik Bhakti? What do I know of Radha and Krishna? I only know my spiritual master. And if I stay with him by serving his mission, surely one day, if he so desires, I'll be there. But if he wants me to stay here, that's Vaikuntha. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a perfect grihastha. He had 12 children. He had a house. He had a job as working in the government of the British. He said, one day I woke up and I saw my house transformed into Vaikuntha. Meaning he was in the material world. But because of his devotional attitude, the spiritual advancement, he wasn't in the material world. He was in the spiritual world. So the spiritual world can be anywhere where we have full faith in Guru and Krishna. One time my dear godbrother, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he since departed this world. He's with Srila Prabhupada. I was just about to start initiating. And I said, Goswami Maharaj, what's the most important quality of a disciple? Because we think like that, don't we? We want to be good students. of our Guru, even our teachers in school. I always encourage our young people to get a good education, a good foundation whereby you can work and have a career and be peaceful to chant Hare Krishna. So I said, what is the best quality for a disciple? So he replied immediately. He said, the best quality for a disciple is Guru Nishta, to have full faith in the spiritual master. The Vedas say that. To one who has full faith in the spiritual master and Krishna, what? The full import of Vedic knowledge is revealed. You don't have to study the Vedas 3 times. It takes 3 lives. All the Vedic literatures, Upanishads, Puranas, Itihasas, it takes 3 lives. The full purport of all that knowledge is given to you if you're a sincere servant of your spiritual master. Guru Nishta. That's the secret. Nothing less, nothing more. So, yeah, I got that slap on the back. But I always consider my duty is to share that slap with my students. That's my most important service. I have the service. Papa told me, he called, before I left for France, I was so nervous. I didn't even know how to say oui, no. I couldn't say yes or no in French. I didn't know anything. All I knew there's an Eiffel Tower. So Prabhupada called me to his room before I was to leave for France. He said, so, are you ready? Yeah. He said, you just go and you preach. And then you make someone who can translate for you. And then you take my books in English and you get them translated into French. And then you publish them, like I had no money. You publish them. And more devotees will come. Then you, with the help of others, I'll send others. You build a temple, then you get a farm community. It's like I'm 19, you know. I just barely finished high school. I was just surfing the waves of California, you know, when the graduation ceremony took place at high school, and my diploma came up, and where's Brian? He's at the beach surfing. So they sent it to me in the mail. And no education. My father used to say, son, you can't do anything. Like, you have no interest in anything. Like, you're not interested in school, you're not interested in sports, you're not interested in social life. What are you going to do in this world? You just don't have any interest. And years later, I laughed at that. I said, Dad, you're right. Somehow, I wasn't interested. And I was only interested when I met the real teacher, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam, who gives us the highest education of Krishna consciousness, which means no more birth and death. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. So Prabhupada could see I was nervous, so he said, all right. And he reached back in his drawer, and he pulled out one of his dhotis. And he said to me, a gift from a Vaishnava is a very special thing. Like in Upanishadamrita, Rupa Swami describes the 6 loving exchanges. Accept the invitation for prasad, cook the prasad, give knowledge, hear knowledge, and one of them is to exchange gifts. So Prabhupada gave me his dhoti. He gave me his dhoti. And that, for me, that was more valuable than all the gold in Fort Knox. In America, we keep our gold in a place called Fort Knox. Even if you gave me all the gold, I wouldn't give that to her. It was saffron. I was a grihastra. I was a married man. I was 11 years married. And later, my wife joined me we joined the movement together, but later she came over to serve with me in France. And I used to wear that chadar, saffron chadar, everywhere. Saffron's for the renunciates. The saffron color, this represents fire. The renunciates, they wear this color because they're burning up their material desires in the fire of service to Guru and Krishna. So I was a grihastra, attached. My wife was a very nice devotee, very beautiful. I used to wear that chadar. And the sannyasis would come through Paris. Guru Kripa, Yashodanandana, Achyutananda. You're a grihastra. What do you wear a saffron for? Take that off. I said, you just try to take it off me. You'll see my right hand. One time I was, from so much Harinam, again, we didn't have, amplification on Harinam. And for 9 years, I sang at the top of my voice, 8 or 9 hours a day, in Paris and Madrid and Rome and everywhere, and singing so much. And I developed this huge nodule on my vocal cords. And my voice was like that. And I went to the hospital. The doctor said, "Are you an opera star?" He said, "I've never seen a nodule so big. You must really sing." I said, "Yeah, I do." So I had to have an operation. So they put me under, boom, and they were going to cut the nodule off. Somehow the anesthesiast, the person who gives he didn't give enough. I woke up in the middle of the operation. That it really makes you dazed, the anesthesia. So I saw this guy with a mask on with a knife. It was a doctor, he's gonna, but I just saw this guy with a knife and a mask. So I went, boom! My hand was tied there, but it was loose. Boom! And the blood went everywhere, the doctor's nose. And then, so when I woke up 3 hours later, the doctor was coming in the room. And he had this this, what do you call it, bandages. Not bandages, but a stick here, like a support thing. And he had his nose taped like that. And he was coming out, "Well, what happened?" The nurse was saying, "You rascal boy, you hit the doctor in the face and broke his nose in 4 places." And I said, "What?" I can remember. And the doctor said, No, it's okay. Because he was under the influence of the toxication of the drug, so he didn't know what he was doing. It's okay. Don't criticize him. So from that I learned something that, like sometimes on Sankirtan, people come and they're aggressive. When we first went to France, we'd go through the markets, and the butchers would throw meat on our face. They knew we weren't meat eaters. They'd take cow flesh, and they'd put it in our face, try to make us eat it. Those were the days. They throw fruit at us, So, but I always remember that they are under the influence of Maya, of illusion. They don't know who they are. They don't know what is pious or impious activity. They're acting under the influence of material energy, just like I was acting under the influence of the drug. So I have to forgive them. A very valuable lesson. Through all my years on the streets, whenever everybody would approach or say something or spit on me, that's okay. That's all right. I have to tolerate, because they're doing it. They wouldn't do it if they were liberated souls. So please, sir, I'm sorry for being here, but could you please buy this book? Like, what? And he says, "What? How much is it?" Like that. So, yeah, Prabhupada gave me the charter. And I wore it till it became like tattered. I looked like a beggar. I had to stop wearing it. And I gave it to Dina Tarani and Yamuna Devi they were making a museum, Prabhupada Museum. I gave like that. And then Prabhupada said to me, because you could see I was a little nervous going to France, he said, "I'll give you an instruction. You preach boldly and you have faith in the holy names." Boom! Prabhupada said, hearing the Maha Mantra or hearing instructions from the spiritual master has a special effect. Special effect. That's why I like to listen to Prabhupada bhajans. We have many kirtaneers, Badahari, my best friend, Madhava, Bibi Govinda Maharaj, but hearing from Prabhupada is something very special. So I like to hear the Prabhupada bhajans. So I gave that instruction, and that's been my mission. I was a young man, and that was my instruction. Based on that instruction, I left householder life with the approval of my former wife. I left, and yeah, I tried my best not to look back and think I left anything behind, not to envy the position of the materialistic sense enjoyers, and it's been a wonderful life. We have to be in this world, but not of this world. That's Jesus' instruction. To be in this world, but not of this world. Like a lotus flower, it's always growing a little bit above the lake. The stem goes into the mud. That's where it gets its nourishment, in the mud, at the bottom of the lake. But the lotus flower has to be a little bit, it's always a little bit above. So I think like that. I want to be like the lotus flower here, but my heart's there. Like a sailor. The sailor's on the ocean, let us say in the old days, on a wooden ship. And he's a good sailor. He varnishes the deck, he polishes the brass, he fixes the sails, he has a sextant, and he's always very careful to know exactly where he is on the ocean as it's going forward, like that. Very good sailor, but he never thinks he's a creature of the water. Isn't it? My father was a sailor. He was in the Navy, he had boats when he was younger, and we used to go out on the boat. And he said, son, before I take you out on this boat, you become an expert swimmer. So when I was in high school, I didn't like to swim, but he put me on the swim team. And we practiced, after school, 5 hours every day through my freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I became, a good swimmer, actually. Especially the backstroke, 200-meter backstroke. I was a champion in California. Yeah. So, like that. Good sailor, but never think you're a creature of, the sailor never thought he was a creature of the water. And as he's being very responsible, going through the waves, what was he thinking? Land. Land ho! He called out like that when he saw the land. He was going through life, but his consciousness was always on the goal. So, we have to be responsible. Prabhupada told us we should be ladies and gentlemen. We should be responsible. We should have an education. Go through high school, secondary. Go to university. Get your master's if you require. Do that. Have a career. Find a nice spouse. Live together. Make money. Have children. Pay your bills. Pay your taxes. Worry about the environment for your children and great-great-grandchildren. That's okay. But Panam Gatim. What's the ultimate goal? Get out of here. And how do I do that? I have to find time to chant 16 rounds every day. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare. Previously, yoga, gyan, tyagi, vairagi, all those paths, it took a long time. Many lifetimes to become self-realized and move to the next stage of self-realization, culminating in bhakti. Vasudeva Savamiti Samahatma Sadurlabha. Krishna says, after many births and deaths, one becomes my surrendered devotee. But now, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said in one of his initiation ceremonies, I see no reason why all my disciples cannot go back to Godhead in one lifetime. That's against the laws of nature. That's called a miracle. How is it accomplished? By the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He made it so simple. We have to find time to chant. We find time to eat. We're so busy, family life, my business, my country. We find time to eat 3 times a day, each about 1 hour. So that's 3 hours. We can't find time to chant 16 rounds. We have to find time to chant 16 rounds. In fact, one of my god sisters, she, in her initiation ceremony, Prabhupada asked her the 4 rules and regulations. So she gave the rules, and then she said, Prabhupada, I promise to chant a minimum of 16 rounds every day. How many of you have made that vow to your guru? I promise a minimum of 16 rounds every day. You know what Prabhupada did? He leaned over and he said, why a minimum? She's like, what? Minimum means you get the minimum benefit. Maximum means you get the maximum benefit. Maximum is 64. Of course, it's not possible for most people in this age, even 32. But 16 quality rounds that we can do. You say in French, ça suffit. Voila. That's all that's required. So if that's all required to get free from samsara, hello? Like, what is samsara? Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, COVID, HIV, car accident, divorce, old age. That's what it means. Who wants that? Everyone has their story. Just chant. Of course, we all have our pace. Not that we can immediately embrace 16. But if we don't come to that point, then where's our intelligence? And if we don't have intelligence, we should take shelter of those who have intelligence and follow their guidance. Senior devotees, spiritual masters, Diksha, Shiksha gurus, Srila Prabhupada. And when you do that, you'll find it's not so difficult. In fact, you look forward to it. Like, how in the world I wasn't chanting 16 rounds before? Wow. And you'll know you're making advancements. So we're all blessed. I have more Prabhupada stories. I'll share them with you when I come next time. Lots of them. But this is hors d'oeuvre. Hors d'oeuvre means that before the main meal, you get some peanuts and some apple juice, and then your hunger increases. So we'll leave you with a cliffhanger. This is hors d'oeuvre. There's so much beautiful philosophy awaiting you as devotees. There's so many beautiful pastimes that are revealed to us by our previous acharyas, the Goswamis, etc. There's so many beautiful moments in your life, special kirtans, special feasts. We had beautiful pizza today. Yeah, we had pizza today. You have Vrindavan. You can fly there. You don't have to take a wooden boat like the sailor. You can fly there in a few hours. You have Mayapur. You have Srirangam, Tirupati, Vishnupati. You have it's just so much. One time, Prabhupada's father said to him, Bye. You know, Krishna has many thousands of arms, and thousands of hands. If he just wants to give you some mercy, how much your two little hands can hold. We have more mercy than we can imagine. Let us take full advantage of it. And let's get back home. Krishna says one who gets back home, gets back to the spiritual world, he never takes birth again. That's your goal. Be responsible, but remember the Param Gatim. Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna's personal abode, where you can enjoy forever a very personal relationship with Krishna. Shantushti, which will satisfy your heart forever. Nothing in this world can compare. And how do we get appreciation of that? How do we get a taste for that? Just like Prabhupada said, if you take a drop of the ocean, you taste it, you know what the whole ocean is like. So how do we get a taste of perfection, of liberation, of bhakti, of devotion, of love, divine love for Radha and Krishna? Through chanting Hare Krishna. Voila. C'est tout. That's all. You get that. It's all revealed to you. Because you're calling out to Krishna for mercy. My dear Lord, my dear energy of the Lord, Shrimati Radharani, please, give me some service. The one time they asked Prabhupada, what's the meaning of the mantra? So we were expecting we'd hear the same thing. Prabhupada said on that occasion, what does this Maha Mantra mean? It means, my friend, my friend, my friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed, and the best friend is Krishna, who's called Mukunda, the deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So when we chant, we should pronounce the whole 32 syllables. We should chant from the heart, with some sincerity, with some meaning. Krishna will hear. Just like a baby in the crib. It's a little uncomfortable, it's wet its pants. So, but if a cobra, snake, sarp comes into the crib, mommy comes running. So if you chant from the heart, Krishna comes running. You have to run to Krishna, he'll run to you. Prabhupada said to us, you are all fallen, sinful boys and girls, hippies, dirty, and ignorant, addicted to drugs and sex and rock and roll. But when you heard the Maha Mantra, you all came running. One of my favorite quotes. And it's true. When we heard the Maha Mantra, whatever we were, we came running. So let's keep running. Running means dancing. Let's keep dancing. We'll have a little kirtan. I took too much of your time, but I think it was all worthwhile. Krishna Kirtan. Shravanam Kirtanam brings Krishna Smaranam, remembrance of the Lord. So have a little kirtan. Do you, here in Crawley, do you like crawl?